It is always a pleasure to take a look at former trades that were done between teams that made significant impacts at the time. Right now, because it's November 2022, I wanted to take a blast back to the past 2 years prior and talk about a trade made between the Canadiens and the Columbus Blue Jackets that in which we're sort of seeing a little bit of the fruits paying off. Is that how the saying goes? No, I don't think that's correct. The right way is not coming to me right now, but either way, this was a trade between two teams that had expiring RFA forwards at their hand. Those guys got swapped around, and the Canadiens traded away a third-round pick on top of that. Of course, we're talking about the Max Domi and Josh Anderson trade. Because when it came to both of their situations with their clubs, as guys that needed contracts for the next year, they couldn't really agree with their teams as to what they could settle on. For Max Domi, he was a Canadiens guy acquired by the team from the Arizona Coyotes in the Alex Galchenyuk trade. He was coming off a very good debut with the squad, getting a career-high 72-point year in 82 games played. The season after, though, he had 44 points in 71 games, his play became a little bit more inconsistent, and he was involved in trade talks once again because word around the block was that he wanted a bridge deal. He wanted to sign short-term so he could get the bag later on, and eventually he got that short-term deal after being sent over to Columbus alongside of that draft pick. He only signed for 2 years at $5.3 million a season. And in fact, he didn't end off that contract with the Blue Jackets. He got sent around elsewhere before going over to where he is today. But for Josh Anderson, this is kind of why I wanted to make this video as well. Because Anderson, his situation in Columbus was a tad different. He was a player in the organization for years who eventually suffered a pretty bad injury that took him out for most of 2019-20. When he returned, he had 4 points in 26 games played, a very steep decline from the 27-goal, 47-point season he had in 2018-19. Word around the block was that he wanted to sign long-term, and that the Blue Jackets would not be willing to give him that type of money just yet. So, the trade was made, and Anderson went over to the Habs with a 5.5 AAV extension till the end of 2027. And honestly, to his credit, Anderson has improved from that 4-point season that he had in 2019-20. He had 24 points in 52 games played in 2020-2021, 5 goals and 1 assist in the playoffs when the Canadiens went to the finals, and even though Anderson wasn't really the biggest point producer in the world, even though he didn't really come close to getting up to 27 goals once again, he still scored some very important goals, and his playstyle sets the tone for the rest of the line. Anderson is a big-bodied, hard-nosed, very strong-paced forward with a good shot that gets a little streaky once in a while. He can become really hot in a period of like a week or two, but other times he'll go goalless for the span of a month. It's been kind of up and down, not gonna lie. But with the resurgence that Anderson has sort of had this year, the mini resurgence, I guess you could say, he's got 6 points in 13 games played, on pace for about 37 points in 80 on the season. And because of the way he's been performing, I mean, there's a lot of people going out there tossing his name in trade rumors saying, hey, other teams are looking for scoring forwards and Anderson has been okay, why not him? There's been a link or two to like the Calgary Flames and stuff, and we're going to make a video about that soon. But for now, I wanted to focus mostly on the trade. Montreal, even though they traded away a player in Domi that was very clearly, with all the context of what was happening at the time, not going to stick around, at the same time, I can't help but be just a tad underwhelmed with how Josh Anderson has performed. Sure, he's been okay, but I do remember the hype that a lot of people had for this guy. Maybe it's just, hey, Canadiens fans go out there and overrate players that play for the Canadiens. It happens all the time, but there was such a good excitement that, hey, Anderson is fully recovered. He had 27 goals when he was healthy, and now he's going to come here and he's going to play with Tyler Toffoli, and Cole Caulfield is going to make the team, and there's going to be so many goal scorers around. And I mean, okay, there's Suzuki and Caulfield right now, and I guess you could say Anderson and his 4 goals on the year is not insignificant, but at the same time, I can't help but think if I told myself back in 2020, hey, this is what Anderson would be by the time 2022 rolls around, I would be a tad disappointed, but at the same time, there's a reason we're talking about this trade in the way that we are, because when it comes to Max Domi, he actually had a pretty weird year with the Blue Jackets starting out. 24 points in 54 games played. The next season, he had a slightly better point production metric, But it was very, very weird with Domi and John Tortorella. There were fourth-line shifts, there were games where he didn't play too much, and it was a problem. It became quite the controversial subject that we made a lot of videos, actually, talking about Domi and his stint with the Blue Jackets. But even though he got the contract that he wanted, the bridge deal that took him until the end of 2022, Domi didn't end off that bridge deal as a member of Columbus. He was sent over to Carolina to help out their playoff run in a 3-team trade between the Hurricanes, the Blue Jackets, and the Florida Panthers. There was a 50% and 25% salary retained thing going on there, but either way, Domi was sent over to Carolina, and he was honestly pretty alright. I mean, the guy had 7 points in 19 games in the regular season and 6 points in 14 games in the playoffs. I remember there was one game where the guy absolutely went off, and he was an absolute stud, but either way, the Carolina Hurricanes did not win themselves a Stanley Cup, and Domi went to unrestricted free agency. This is when he signed with Chicago, which is where he is today, a 1-year, $3 million contract, and it appears that the 27-year-old is making the absolute best out of the opportunity of playing on the Blackhawks. In 14 games played, Domi has 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 total points. He's on pace for 58 points on the year, which would be his second most productive season in the NHL ever. And he's a guy that really is just kind of getting all the chances, because everybody on Chicago is so bad, except for Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews pretty much, that you have spots open for guys to come out here and just start scoring points. Jason Dickinson is top 4 in points on that team, and that guy was absolutely useless last year for Vancouver. So, of course, aside from Kane and Toews, you have a cast of other players rotating around like Taylor Radish, Dickinson, Domi, Lafferty, Athanasiou, who are all getting their chops in and actually showing off that they can be capable NHL point producers. Seth Jones, unfortunately, has only played 8 games, but he's got 4 points in those, so he should be one of those guys as well when he's actually able to play. And so if you're going off of just raw, hard point production, right now, Max Domi is a better player than Josh Anderson. He's on pace for 58 points, Anderson is on pace for 37, Anderson is also a year older than Domi, and he's got a much longer contract at 5.5 till the end of 2027. So we'll see where exactly Anderson ends up if the Canadiens decide to trade him, which I think it's more likely that they will than they don't. As for Domi, though, he's in a precarious spot too because he's got no contract security for next year. Obviously, this 1-year opportunity with the Blackhawks was just a show-me chance where he would be able to go out there, boost his numbers, and say to teams in the free agent market next year that, hey, I scored 50-something points, and I was a top 6 forward, and I was a top 3 player on the Blackhawks, so give me money. It's kind of the short-sighted, shorter-term kind of thinking that made him sign that 2-year bridge deal with the Blue Jackets in the first place 2 years ago. But either way, at the end of the day, this trade doesn't really seem like one that's all too, dare I say, important. Like, I know it featured some important talents. Domi getting 70 points in the Canadian system in 2018 or whenever it was, that was definitely pretty noteworthy, and it's why a lot of Canadiens fans wanted to see the best return possible for a guy like Domi. It's just unfortunate that Anderson was never really able to live up to that hype, even though he has been okay at the same time. Obviously, they're different players. Anderson's a lot bigger, he's more strong, he's more powerful. Domi is a lot more finesse, skilled, and small, but at the same time, these two guys are both kind of just middling in the territory of being okay guys, I guess. And this is mostly to the benefit of Domi as well, because we made videos 4 months after the trade, a year after the trade, talking about how Domi was in all this hot water with John Tortorella and how he wasn't being played, and how Anderson is scoring clutch goals for Montreal in the playoffs, and he is at the very least playing significant minutes, and he's happy, apparently, with the time that he's getting. So it was always seen as kind of a short-term win for Montreal because Domi got the short end of the stick in Columbus, but now that he's in Chicago and he's doing well, it's kind of evened itself out more so. Especially when you see how Anderson is kind of being treated by this Montreal market where they all kind of want him to get traded to Calgary instead. So I don't know why I made this video. I feel really awkward. I'm gonna be honest, like when I make a video and I feel awkward about it at the end, I don't really know if it's a good video. So Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Either way, what you think about this Domi-Anderson thing. How intriguing is it to follow up 2 years after the trade was made, because both of these guys are a lot different today than we thought they would be at this point if you had asked us 2 years ago when the trade was made initially. I think that's fair to say, so let me know in the comments how different this is and how you see them going forward. Does Domi sign a long-term deal finally with some team in next year's free agency period? Does he stick around in Chicago? Does Anderson get traded? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.